Welcome to the MVP podcast, where we talk about anything NBA. I'm Sam Holcroft, joined alongside Geigh Zollicoffer and Payton Thompson. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP, follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. Today we're going to do, I think this is our 10th, maybe 9th, I've lost track, stock market update. Starting off with the top gainers and losers. The Bulls were the top gainer at $8.31 a share. The Grizzlies, $6.65. The Mavericks, $4.04. The Pelicans, $3.39. And the Rockets at $2.82. Other teams that gained money were the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Kings, the Hornets, the Mavericks, the Pacers, the Blazers, the Magic, the Knicks, the Spurs, the Wizards, and the Pistons. Our top losers, the Cavs at $11.42 a share. The Heat, $6.96. Ooh, that one hurt, Gage. Raptors, $4.64. 76ers, $2.91. And the Celtics at $2.45. Other teams that lost money were the Bucks, the Suns, the Jazz, the Warriors, the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, the Hawks, the Nets, and that's it. The last two were on the top losers. So in terms of us, PT, first of all, round of applause. First time that you've gained the most money out of the three of us. It was only $18.22, but it's still top.
He's gonna make it.
He's gonna get there. I believe the break-even point, it's coming.
Yeah.
So that brings your yearly loss down to $400.71. I was second. I lost $27.65. Still bringing my yearly gains to $2,228.37. And then Gage lost $479.63, bringing the yearly gains to $1,927.52. So, guys, we got this update, and in 2 weeks, we're going to have our final update. So this is the second to last time that we can buy and sell some stocks. So, it's like I said, I think 2 weeks ago, it's getting to crunch time, desperation time, where we make the big moves where, this is a team that I've been going with all year, but I might gotta get rid of them. So who would like to go first on their buys and sells?
I'll go first. So with the Hornets, I feel like the Hornets are kind of in that position now in the NBA season where they know they're not really competing for a play-in spot. I mean, maybe earlier in the season, they thought maybe they had a chance, but even then, LaMelo was out a lot of the time. I feel like at this point, they're kind of just trying to get through the season. We've talked a little bit about this off air, but I think they really need to fire Steve Clifford. I don't think he's the guy that's going to take them to the next level. And obviously, LaMelo needs to stay healthy for next season, but I think at this point, they're just going to try to aim for another high draft pick. I think they saw what they got with Brandon Miller, and they want to get another piece that they can add with him and Mark Williams. We talked kind of about those guys a little bit in our last podcast about young cores, but I think at this point they're just kind of trying to hedge their bets and get better in the future. So I ended up selling, I think, most of my stocks in them. Clippers, I don't think the Clippers are going to hit that estimated win percentage of, I think, 63?
Yep.
Yeah, 63. So, I think the Clippers are a great team, but it's hard to bet on them to have all their guys healthy, especially with Kawhi having some troubles lately. I think it was only one game, but I just don't really want to take shares and bet on them at this point in our stock market updates. Sure, how much longer he's going to be out, and the Knicks are going to be a good team, but it was just one of those things where I feel like I could get more out of these two other teams I added opposed to keeping those 7 Knicks shares. And the Pacers, I mean, I think the Pacers will be fine. They're going to be a playoff kind of team, but at the same time, I don't feel like having 5 less Pacers shares is really going to hurt me all that much. And Tyrese Halliburton's been kind of off lately, so I think they're kind of figuring out some things there in Indiana, but I'm not too worried about the 5 shares. And then Lakers, I just kind of wanted to capitalize on their current stock price. It's only gone up $1, but $63 2 shares is a little bit over $120. So I think that was a good share I could use for these other teams that I added. And then the Raptors, I kind of just use them as a, I guess getting a little bit of extra money back. I know obviously $18, a little bit over $18 isn't much, but it was enough where I could get a little bit more of my Warrior shares. So let me talk about the teams I added. So Rockets, I added a good amount last week, and it paid off. Not a huge amount, but if I would have put more into them, I feel like it could have paid off a lot more. And I think these other two guys agree with me, especially Geigh, who also invested in them and is also investing in them this week. Almost double mine, not quite, but yeah, I feel like the Rockets have a very feasible schedule. It seems like as much, I'm a Rockets fan, and if you watch this podcast regularly, you know that. But it seems like we play a little bit faster. We rotate a little bit faster on defense without Alperen Şengün, and I think that's kind of throwing teams off. And when we play teams without Alperen, it seems like they don't really know how to game plan against us because they're really thinking like, what's this team gonna be without Alperen? Because he's been our best player the last couple years, and every team knows that, and they game plan for him. But they don't really know what this team is about without him, especially without Cam Whitmore and Tari Eason and guys like that. And Jalen Green stepped up. Fred's played well. Dylan's shooting a high clip from three. Jock Landale has had good minutes at that backup center spot. Men Thompson is averaged, I think, 17 in the last two games. So this team, it seems like it's just a little bit faster, a little bit more cohesive without Alperen. Obviously, I don't think we're a better team, throughout the course of a season without him. But I think with us having kind of a softer schedule this next couple of weeks, I think it's a good time to kind of push my chips in a little bit and bet on the Rockets. And if it doesn't pay off, I think I'm okay with that because I've seen the progress that we look like without Alperen. And I think this team really genuinely wants to make the play-in spot. But and so I'm okay if it doesn't pay off, but if it does pay off, putting in 65 shares there, I think is a good idea. And as far as the Warriors, it's kind of like the same thing, except I think it was them getting Steph back, and I think they feel the Rockets and Lakers on their heels, and they really feel like they need to get some good ground here to not feel so much pressure, to not give up the last couple of games of the season where they may lose a guy for a couple of games. Clay here, Steph there, Andrew here. So they're going to want to really win these next couple of weeks so they don't have to really feel that pressure from the other teams that are going to be on their heels. So I just feel like with a healthy roster, Chris Paul on the bench, Brandon Podajemski playing well, Clay, Andrew back finally after his personal issues, I feel like they're going to go on a nice little run here. And unfortunately, not because of the Rockets, not winning games, but I feel like the Warriors being 3-4 games ahead of them, they're going to go on a streak and they're going to make that final or ninth seeds playoff spot in the play-in. So I feel really good about these two teams I'm investing in because of kind of what's on the stake here.
Okay. Gage, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I didn't expect the Heat to sell me, but they did. They dropped some losses against some easy wins, and I'm pretty sure they're kicking themselves too because now they're slowly falling out of the playoffs. So they suffer. But I ended up going into two teams just to see if I could spice it up and see if I can see like the potential swing. And one of those teams, like Payton said, was the Rockets. The Rockets have all the need to also win these last few games if they're making a push for the play-in. There is no incentive to tank. And they do have an easier schedule this month with their only playoff. I believe their only playoff team that they have to play is OKC.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah, so with that, it just seems like I think this Rockets team I don't think this Rocket team will drop those easy necessary wins this late in the season, and their expected win percentage is .528. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that gamble. Now moving on to the Kings, I think the Kings are in the same position. They have this crazy matchup with the Mavericks. It's back to back. It's gonna be huge, but I think the Kings are a better team than the Mavericks. I think that the Kings can push the tempo a lot, can hang that, like, if there's not many teams that can hang with the tempo of the Mavericks, but the Kings are one of them, so that's going to be a pretty fast game. Alongside that, besides that, the Kings do have an easier schedule as well. So if you wanted to boil down why I picked these two teams, it's two teams that need to make a push, and can't afford to who can't afford to drop down, because I mean, if the Kings lose these two games against the Mavericks, uh, that's already, they basically lose home court advantage against the Mavericks, because then they'll hop over and it'll be a little mess. If the Houston Rockets lose, then given how tough the play-in is right now with the Lakers and Warriors, that's almost a death wish right there this late in the season. So yeah, I'm betting on these two teams.
Real quickly, I just want to say it's a little off topic, but it kind of goes on with the Rockets a little bit. It's kind of really tough how, and I feel like we say this kind of every year. It seems like a common thing with the West versus the East, but it's just crazy that if the Rockets were in the East, we would be looking at a 9 seed playing spot right now. But right now we're on the 11 seed, not because of like we're a bad team. We're almost 500. We're 32 and 35. But it's just the Warriors and Lakers have that top tier talent where, with LeBron, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Andrew, and Clay, it's hard to be better than those teams when you're a young up and coming team with a first year head coach and first year Fred and Dylan. So I'm optimistic as a Rockets fan, and I think we're gonna finish strong, hopefully above 500.
All right. So, in terms of my sells, I got rid of the Hornets. Feel like $38 for a team that's only won 17 games is good enough for me. I made my money these last. I mean, I guess I've been with them for at least a month now, maybe even a little more. But I think I'm good with the gains there. They have a little bit of a tougher schedule. Still winning 2 games might be a little tough over the next 2 weeks. So I'm getting rid of that, all 58. Get rid of the Heat. As I told Geigh off air, this is probably the last time I'm going to ever invest in the Heat again. Last time I went heavy in the Heat, they did the exact same thing and dropped like $10 a share, $8 a share or something. So yeah, I'm done with the Heat there. I sold 15 of my Grizzlies share. That expected win percentage is just too nice to leave, and I don't think it's that big of a deal if they do only win like 2 games, and is kind of like, I guess they only need to win 2 games out of their, I think, upcoming 7 in order to hit that expected win percentage. And if they only get 1, like they're gonna drop maybe like $4. It's not going to hurt me too much because that's only $40 down. The Pacers, I sold all 10 of them. They their expected win percentage is climbing to the point where it's like, is it even worth investing? 56% is pretty tough unless if you're very confident in them. A team that's going to be fighting for the playoffs, but they also, if I look real fast, they don't have the monkey on their back. I guess they got the Heat and the 76ers kind of right there in that 7-8. But 76ers, are playing very bad as of late. And the Heat, is very topsy-turvy. So maybe down the stretch, if they do get a little lead, they could sit Pascal or Tyrese or someone. But, and then I sold 3 Pistons. Yeah, I can't sell them all. I've been with the Pistons for almost the entire year now, so got to keep one. In terms of my my buys, I'm going 80 shares in the Kings. Just like Geigh said, a very good schedule. The 2 Mavericks games are kind of concerning, but they have, I think, the Spurs and Wizards, Grizzlies, Raptors, I believe. Like those are very winnable games. So if they just take care of business with those, they could drop the 2 to the Mavericks and still make money. I'm buying 25 of the Suns, for the same kind of reason that you guys were talking about, like the Warriors and the Rockets. The Suns are the 8 seed right now in the West. They have just as much to fight for to try to climb into that playoff picture. They're 3 games ahead of the Warriors at the 9. but they want to get to that 6. They want to pass the Mavericks and the Kings, which they are all like the same games back from each other. So realistically, like this is a team that if they're gonna if there's a time, now is the time. And I think that with their schedule, I mean, like, look at this. They got the 76ers with no Joel, the Atlanta Hawks, the Spurs, the Nuggets, and the Thunder. So the
Hawks
Nuggets
without
and Thunder,
Trey. Yeah.
Hawks without Trey, you know? So all they got to do is win 4 games. And I think that 76ers, Hawks, Spurs, like those are 4 games that they could easily win. You
Yeah.
know, maybe sneak the Nuggets, doubt it. And then the Thunder, that's going to be a good game regardless. I also got 22 shares on the Lakers. You know, 80 is questionable for tonight. You know, that should probably be coming through any moment now. Hopefully, hopefully he's playing. But they got 7 games. All they have to do is win 4. And, you know, they got the Hawks without Trey, 76ers without Joel, the Pacers, Bucks, Grizzlies, Pacers, and the Nets. Like I can trust that the Lakers, especially with the same reasoning that you guys said with the Rockets, can try to kick it into gear, make sure that you shut the door on the the Rockets that are coming for you. And also, I just feel like even if they barely make 500, which would be winning 4, they'd make probably more money than what the Rockets would if they won all but 1 or 2 games, realistically. So that's why I'm going with the Lakers rather than the Rockets, just because their stock price at $13.34, it's very low. I mean, it's low risk, but it's also like a low reward. So,
yeah.
Yeah, with the Mavericks, you know, I like their schedule. You know, they got the 2 games against the Kings, and if they do win those, then they should easily get their expected win percentage and make money. I'm buying 7 more Bulls. Oh, no. Did not. Sorry. Got rid of them. My bad. And then, you know what? You guys did talk me into 1 Rockets because I had some money to spend. So you convinced me.
$13.
1 Rockets. I mean, I could put that back in the Pistons, buddy, if you really want me to.
I mean, you know, I feel like here's my question: is 13 Rockets share? You know, $1 or 1 share of a $13 Rocket share. Is that going to do much for you? Or if it goes up to 14, 15?
I mean, you guys are very confident that they're going to make money. So
I mean,
why not get like, you know, not even a piece of the just let me have a crumb. Just let me have a crumb. That's all I want.
I'm saying you can have more than a crumb. You can have a whole slice.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not worth. The juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Right.
And I said this 2 weeks ago too, when we were talking about the Grizzlies and the Rockets. I said the Rockets could win twice as much as the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies are still going to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing I do like about your strategy here when you were talking about the Lakers and the Mavericks is that ultimately those teams are just a little bit more talented across the board, you know, and so it's, you know, for them to win games, it's going to be a little bit easier because if it's a game that they, you know, maybe they should lose or they might lose, it's going to be a lot closer where they have a bigger chance to win that game. Whereas if the Rockets play the Thunder, they might lose by 20, just because of a talent deficit. So yeah, I understand your method.
So I guess the question that I think everyone's wondering now: no one's still invested in the Wizards? No? Okay, we got one more update. One of us can do it next week.
Let me just say this real quick. The Wizards are so bad. I think
they gained money. They gained money.
I mean, how? Okay, they gained 50
They won
cents.
2 games. They won 2 games out of 8 games.
Who did they beat?
I'll look it up right now.
Look it up, because this is one of the worst teams I've ever watched in my life. Offensively, defensively, Wes Unseld Jr. is terrible coach. The front office has no direction, doesn't know what they're doing.
So they beat the Heat by 2. That hurt. That really hurt.
Yeah.
And they beat the Hornets by 12.
Okay, and the Hornets are also bad, but they at least have a somewhat blue chip prospect in Brandon Miller. I've just never seen a team this bad. Or I mean, I have, I guess, Sixers teams and Detroit teams and stuff, but it just seems like they're
Rockets
the kind of
teams.
team. You said which one?
Nothing.
No,
What?
the Steven Silas teams
I
weren't
know.
this
I was
bad.
joking. It
No,
was just a
I
joke.
know.
It
Well,
was
I
just
mean,
a
it's valid, but it's just I've never seen a team this lost because here's the thing: with the Sixers, Pistons, Rockets, those teams always had some kind of future they could look forward to, whether it's a prospect, whether it's draft picks, anything. And I guess the Wizards are gonna have draft picks, but there's no evidence in the last 12 years that they know how to draft at all. Their best draft pick was what, Bradley Beal recently? Yeah, and that was 2011, so we're going on 13 years.
I feel like
And
one of those drafts weren't their fault though, but I
well,
don't
okay.
remember right.
Well, here's the thing: is it might not be your fault one year. You might have a bust where you draft top five, but they haven't done it one year. They've done it like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like Johnny Davis. Like, okay, Johnny Davis didn't pan out. Okay. Um. Uh. I mean, I think Denny is a good player, but he's not a kind of guy you need for a ceiling raiser. You know.
Well, and
Um.
it's one thing to draft guys, but it's also one thing to develop them. Like,
Yes.
because I mean, there's been so many guys, that gets drafted somewhere, and then as soon as they leave, like they get coached, they get developed, and then they have success. And I
Yes.
feel like
Really.
the Wizards is not a team that makes guys good. That can't develop them.
Yes. And that's a coaching staff problem. But it starts from the top. You know what I mean? I'm pulling up their draft picks. Okay, Corey Kispert, good shooter out of Gonzaga. Good shooter. That's about it though. He's not giving you 20 points. Troy Brown, Oregon. Oh,
No,
no.
he's gone.
I already said Johnny Davis. Um, they had Jarris Walker, but they traded him for Bilal, who's now out for the season with a wrist sprain. I mean, ultimately, it probably doesn't matter too much, but they took a project in Bilal who wasn't going to help them right away, which I sort of get, but I don't know. Um, uh, they took Otto Porter. Perfect example, Sam. Never developed him. Went to the Bulls, averaged 18 points per game later in
He's
his
retired
career.
now.
He is retired now. Yeah, they took Beal in 2012. But like, have you ever heard of Aaron White, Usov Sanin,
Nope.
Vic Krejci,
Nope.
Yannick Nizosa,
Nope.
Tristan Vukovic,
Nope.
and they drafted Trace Jackson Davis, who's a good player on a different team,
Who got traded?
who got traded. So not only do they suck at developing guys, but once they do trade guys, they get 1 year like Trace Jackson Davis in their a functional rotation player. So yeah, I don't know what the Wizards
Why
are
did
gonna
they
do,
trade?
man.
Why did they trade? What's his name? The center?
Rui? Oh,
Daniel
Not Ray.
Gafford.
Gafford.
Because he had value and they suck. And with him being on the team, it wasn't gonna make them good enough where it was worth keeping that value or keeping the potential value.
But he's not too old, is he?
No,
no, he's under 25.
he's not. If I'm looking it up right now. I don't even think they drafted him though. No,
I don't think
Chicago
so.
drafted him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean he's a good young player. He's 25, but it's not like he was gonna be the guy. And they had Thomas Bryant, who is a good player. He got hurt. I will say that's not on them. He was a good player. He got hurt. Um, but yeah, this front office doesn't really know what they're doing. So
Yeah, they're kind of doomed unless you hand them a first rounder, I think.
I got a
And
question. It's a little off topic though, a little bit. It has to do with the Wizards though. Would you rather be the Wizards front office and owner, or the Nets front office and owner?
I'd rather be the Wizards.
I think I'd rather be the Wizards too, but that's assuming that you're doing the work, not
Yeah.
some guy you don't trust, right? You get to take the picks. You get to have the control. Yeah.
Yeah. The Nets have the weirdest kind of like front office, like not front office, but the weirdest decline and incline. Like you go from selling your entire future to getting Paul Pierce and Joe Johnson and those guys who are
Yeah.
like washed out of their prime and everything. And then you're
That
like
ended
all
up
hope is
making the
lost.
Celtics. That ended up making a Celtics a dynasty or
And
Yeah.
give
dynasty
Jason
level.
Tatum to the Celtics basically. But
Yep.
then you're rock bottom and you're in the same position like right as you are right now, but like all of a sudden, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving just want to go to New York. So
For some
you
reason.
skyrocket to arguably one of the greatest big threes of all time. And then like within 2 years you're back down to like rock bottom. Because the thing about the
Rockets
Nets
bottom.
is yeah. The thing about the first time they were rock bottom is they didn't own any of their picks. They only had Paul Pierce and all those guys, but now they're in the same position where they don't own any of their picks. So like, would you call that a rebuild? Just
All I'll say about the Nets is you fooled me once, shame on you. You fooled me twice, shame on me. Because they did it again. And they're in the same position where they gotta have guys that aren't particularly young that have hit their peak. Granted, they're a lot younger than KG and Joe Johnson and those guys. But again, they don't have their picks. They're not gonna be a playoff kind of team. And they're just gonna give these top 8 picks to the Rockets every year who already have a better head coach than them and young players.
But
So
they survived. Last time they traded away all their picks, they survived and got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and
well,
That
that was
took a
James
while.
Harden.
That was after
That took
like
like
10
7
years.
years, 8
Yeah.
years.
Oof. Yeah, they had that one good year from D'Lo.
I was gonna say they did
yeah,
have that good year.
Yeah.
That ended up being was that part of the sign and trade?
With who?
Yeah, with the Warriors, and then they went out and got Kyrie. I think, yeah.
Well, they signed Kyrie and they signed KD.
But they did a sign
traded
and
for
trade.
Harden, and then
did
they
a sign and trade
traded
and then traded him to
D'Lo to the Warriors.
yeah. I remember when that happened. I was like, yeah, they got Kyrie.
And
Mhm.
Ben
There was no
Simmons
point to trade.
Ben Simmons is still sorry,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Good thing about his situation is they're going to be able to get him off the books next year. Finally. But that's like, okay, cool, you have money. Who's going to want to go to Brooklyn?
Right.
Like, I don't-
Kyrie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure,
if
buddy.
Harden.
Harden, Kyrie, and KD went to Brooklyn, so people might want to go to Brooklyn.
I think there's a lot better chance of one of those guys going to the Knicks before they go back to the Nets, or any star for that matter. Donovan Mitchell for that matter.
I mean, if I'm a free agent, I feel like, I want to go somewhere where I can most likely try to compete now, but like sustain for the future. And they can't do that. Like, why
Yeah.
would you go somewhere where they don't have their first round picks for the next who knows how long?
Not only that, but they don't have a lot of cap. I mean, they're signing Mikhail to that contract. They extended Cam Johnson on a 1-year or a 4-year, $100 million contract. They still got Ben Simmons on books for one more year. They're
And I
locked up.
think they have enough to get someone good, but like nothing that's going to tip them over the edge, and that could just end up being Nick Claxton this offseason.
It could just be Malik Monk,
Yeah.
a nice little 11-10 seed.
Is there any other teams that you guys wanted to bring up?
No.
I'll
Maybe
say-
next week.
Yeah, I'll just say real briefly, I think this is kind of the point in the season where teams like the Jazz, Wizards, Hornets, Pistons have kind of been doing it all season, but they're really leaning into like that full tank mode. Maybe the Hawks, because they know they don't really have a real chance to do much in the playoffs. So this is kind of what we're seeing right now.
Is Trey fully out for the season? Did they rule him out?
I think. I don't
they're right now
know.
they're the 10 seed in the East.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think they kind of understand where they're at.
Is he a free agent,
Who?
Trey?
No.
Or has he got another year?
And
I
he has
think
at least
he's
one
already
more
on
year.
a rookie max extension.
Mm.
It's not telling me. Okay, so it says at least 4 weeks from the injury. And he got injured, what, 2 weeks ago or something like that? Maybe 3.
Something like that.
So
Yeah,
he
so
could come
then
back for the playoffs, I guess. But we've been talking about rumors of him getting traded to a team like the Spurs or the Magic for, a high draft pick. Or not one, but, a package. But no, I think we kind of hit the bases we needed to hit. Another team that's kind of tanking right now, Blazers, they're going to start resting guys down the stretch. So,
They make it
but
obvious though.
yeah, well, yeah, but at the same time, Shaden's injury is real, and Scoot's just not that good right now. I was telling Sam off air, I think Amen Thompson is just a better player right now, and I understand that the coaching is probably a little bit better in Houston right now, but that's part of what it is to develop like a Wizard situation.
all right, so then the last thing we're gonna do here is we're just gonna look, since it's been a while since we looked at this, but the stock timeline and how crazy that looks.
Who
You
died?
know, who died? Well, that's the Cavs. Well, okay.
Okay.
Well, which one? I mean, we got the
At the age of the Bucks and
Bucks.
age of the Cavs.
The
Well, and the
Bucks.
Lakers. Don't forget the Lakers. I mean, they've kind of worked their way back up. But yeah, the Lakers and Bucks. Like, remember when everyone was like, "Yeah, let's just get some of that. Give me that." And then now it's like,
Gage.
maybe.
Yeah.
But then
Who's
the
blue?
Cavs. Which one?
The
this
very
one?
bottom.
Oh, that's the Pistons.
Yeah, has to
That's come on, bud. Come
They
on,
just
man.
been chilling.
be. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you can see the Bulls' trajectory, like right here, and then the red, and then they go up, and then they kind of stay up. They go down a little bit, and then they're up again.
Are the
You know,
Rockets at the bottom? Is that like
yeah.
that?
This one, right here.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
But did the Rockets have a peak too? They just been
It's
chilling.
a slight
No,
peak.
they've been
I
going
think.
down, down,
Well, they
down,
have,
down,
yeah,
down.
but I think it's a slight peak at the end, isn't it?
Like right. I mean, this isn't the highest they've had. They started at
Slight
$20,
peak at the
I
end.
think.
Yeah.
25 maybe.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Young teams, man, they're inconsistent.
Yep. One of these days I'm going to find out who the most consistent team was.
I wish you could you can, right? You can basically divide. You can divide it, the numbers, and divide it by their average, and then you have a variance measure.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and do that.
Yeah. It's probably the Warriors, which I think
Maybe.
Excel,
right.
yeah, Excel might even be able to do that. Just say, give me the variance of this. Just highlight the whole row. Give me variance
formula. Yeah.
and that's it.
That'll probably be like a final, like how'd we do kind of thing. We're bringing up some like fun stats and everything because I got a lot of cool stuff lined up for that, which would be in 4 weeks. So once the season is
mid-April
done. Yep. But once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. I've been Sam Holcroft.
Geigh Zollicoffer.
I've been Payton Thompson.
Thanks for listening.